If this is your first visit to China and you're expecting to return to Australia with a great new business deal, then I'm sorry to tell you that you're going to leave disappointed. If you do have a deal, maybe something's wrong.
As China's economy opened up and boomed, a desire for luxury imports was unleashed. Brands matter here, and those who can afford it prefer high-end Western labels. What's your favourite brand?
Dior.
Is that Dior?
Yeah, it's Dior, yeah.
These women love eating out too, especially Western food. What do your grandparents and parents think about how much money you spend on food, eating out?
They have some tough understanding about that because they think maybe we shouldn't spend that much on food.
Here, the Louis Vuitton of protein is beef.
Here we are today in a really premium supermarket, and this is where our premium product really hits the mark. And high-end Wagyu, grain-fed Angus product is really popular in a place like this.
This 9+ Wagyu strip loin costs $540 a kilo.
So here you can see a bit of grain-fed Canadian beef competing against us, but only maybe one facings to our 10. So, you know, we still do have quite a good position here compared to the competitor.
The preference for fresh over frozen gives Australia an advantage, as we're the only country that's been granted chilled access. Officially, there's no US beef here. The Chinese government banned it in 2003. Meat and Livestock Australia has made the most of its 13-year absence, heavily promoting Australian beef as prestigious, safe and healthy.
So since 2012, when we got significant more access for our Australian processing plants, we saw a rapid increase, went from about 5,000 tonnes to 150,000 tonnes, so a huge jump. We've seen it sort of plateau out a bit. It's sitting at around 145,000 tonnes, and it's dropped back a bit this year with tight supply from Australia.
But most Chinese buy their beef at markets like this, where local, not imported beef dominates.
It's all local beef here from Chinese cattle, and it's all freshly supplied to this market.
How important is fresh versus frozen here?
Yeah, so fresh is the number one driver for consumers. That's what they look for. That's their number one purchasing decision. Is it fresh?
China is the world's biggest consumer of pork. Here it accounts for a huge 63% of meat consumption. The next most popular protein? Seafood and poultry at 23%. Beef share is small, making up just 8% of the Chinese meat diet.
Beef's about $17 a kilo that we saw there, and the pork's about a third of that. So you can sort of see the difference, and that drives the consumption.
Australia's share of China's beef market might be just 2.6%, but that small slice is worth $1 billion. With China's beef consumption predicted to grow 10% a year and import tariffs of up to 25% to be eliminated by 2026, the outlook for Australian beef is bright.
We're talking hundreds of millions of people that have been lifted out of poverty in the last 30 years, but that doesn't mean that all of them are the type of consumer that can afford to pay for premium imported products. The actual numbers that can, your upper middle class or your wealthy people, we're still talking millions and millions of people, much larger than the Australian market, and that space is growing and will continue to grow as well.
Elders is one of the Australian beef industry's China success stories.
In good years here we're growing at 25%, in quiet years we're growing at around 5 to 10. We're seeing a lot of chains from the USA and Europe stepping into the space in China, and there's still new hotel openings as well.
But success hasn't been easy or quick. 2015 was Elder's first profitable year here. It made it into the black after losing money for 11 years.
I think some of the reason for people's excitement about China is that statistics can often be mind-blowing.
Craig Aldous urged an Australian farming delegation visiting China not to get carried away.
If this is your first visit to China and you're expecting to return to Australia with a great new business deal, then I'm sorry to tell you that you're going to leave disappointed. If you do have a deal, maybe something's wrong. I'm continually amazed by how many calm and rational business people arrive in China and throw all caution to the wind and evolve into raging bulls after they sniff an opportunity in China.
There is a lot of hype in Australia about China, and I think the hype is warranted, but I don't think people understand fully the complexity of doing business in China. If you're struggling in Australia and you get bamboozled by the numbers in China and you think that all you have to do is come up here and automatically there's going to be big orders and you're going to multiply your business by 10 and you'll be saved, China will more likely send you down rather than up.
Elders moved into China early when it bought this beef importing operation in Shanghai in 2004. Then the beef market was tiny. Growth was slow, so it started selling Australian food and wine. But after losing money for several years, the business was closed. Why didn't that work?
I think it was focus more than anything else, I think in such a complex market like China, you need to be very good at what you do, and if you do too many product categories, you spread across too large a range, and I don't think you do any of it very well.
Its online operation lost money too. 2% of sales chewed up 15% of the costs.
I think if you're doing e-commerce, you need to go through some of the big Chinese websites to really get some exposure to the market quickly.
The two costly failures forced Elders to focus on what it did best, beef. 3 years ago, it restyled itself as a distributor of prestige Australian brands exclusive to Elders, and it targeted just one market, fine dining.
Okay, pick up the 9 plates for the table.
Five-star Shanghai restaurant Cha is a typical customer. It's expensive. Steaks are several $100s each. The most expensive, a 180-gram Blackmore's fillet at 424 Australian dollars. The beef menu here is exclusively Australian, and all the brands are from Elders distribution stable.
Not only that is the best that you can find in the market, is again, it's the way that Australia is protecting the cattle and the way that they grow. It makes a big difference,
Chef Wilmer's diners are fussy.
They ask me, where this product come from? Do you know? Or sometimes they even ask me, what supplier do you use? They want to make sure that the products that they're having is exactly what they're paying for, and we're very well known for our traceability.
Craig Aldous can't see Wagyu's superstar status slowing down.
When I arrived here 10 years ago, Wagyu was nowhere to be seen. And we were one of the pioneers in China to import Wagyu from Australia, and we've seen it, just explode.
In the past, Elders has tried partnering with Chinese companies, but now prefers going it alone. As for customers, it favours international hotel chains, as there's a mutual understanding about business practices.
There's a lot of talk about relationship that you'll hear back in Australia from companies talking about doing business in China. But some of those types of relationships would be regarded as unethical or illegal the way that we operate back in Australia. So trying to navigate through that way of doing business and still do things legally or ethically by Australian standards can be extremely challenging, and that's another reason why you need to give yourself a lot of time.
Blue Frog, a high-end chain, buys from Elders. It's run by Australian expat Coralie Danks, a banker who grew up in the Pilbara. Despite recent price hikes, the restaurant's beef sales have grown. South American beef is cheaper, but Coralie buys Australian because of its reputation for quality.
Primarily, it's the most famous brand or country of origin. It just comes from a place that they know where the water source is good, the air is clean, the ground is clean, and they're getting a product that is healthy.
Customer concern about food safety is another reason she chose Elders.
They control the supply chain, and that's very important to us that we have a supplier that controls the supply chain from when that beef leaves Australia to when it lands at our restaurants.
Most companies doing well in China will tell you they lost money before they made it. Elders' faith in China has finally been rewarded, and it hopes those with a China plan learn from its mistakes.
I hope that people have returned to Australia being very excited about China, but just understanding that the better they do their homework before they start, the higher the chances of success.